So you came in as a recast for the Apostle Philip. Tell us how that audition came about for you.
Oh, of course. So I was basically a big fan of the Chosen since season one. I think that's not no longer a secret.
Mhm.
Um, and basically, I was always looking for a chance to get involved. So around season two, I think I auditioned for a couple of the disciples who were coming in, and Philip was my favorite because for so many reasons, I felt like we had a lot of similarities. We have he's kind of a nomad who's kind of been around the block. I've been the same, kind of living in four different countries. Also, like he's kind of known as an old soul, and people tend to describe me as an old soul in a way. So yeah, I just kind of auditioned then, and then things turned out as they did, and then sort of in a serendipitous way, 2 years later on season four, here I am. So.
That's great. Yeah, I just love your speaking voice. Do you do voiceovers and animated series and things like that as well?
I'm very interested in it, but I haven't done any yet.
Oh,
Just
okay.
just because of the way the cards have fallen. But
Right.
I've been doing that since I was a kid, and I do all sorts of languages and accents. So
Oh, that's awesome. Oh,
and
that'll
I
get you
like.
something at some point for that. Yeah. So did the cast welcome you right away, or did it take a while to feel like you fit in?
No, if I'm honest with you, it was I always talk about this as well, but like there was a sense of like unconditional love throughout the whole chosen family that I've never really experienced before. There was something quite humble about it. Oftentimes when you work on projects, there's people you get on with, people you don't get on with. There's sometimes a bit of hierarchy, there's a sense of like ego going on. Um, but also, that's fine, it's part of the job. But like something really weird was going on here because there was this like deep sense of like unity and vision across the whole like team, straight from Dallas, the director, and you know every person, all the cast, and also like the crew, and even like people who were there serving food or serving coffee. They did it with this passion because everyone felt like they were part of something bigger.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
yeah, and the cast were really sweet. I mean, it's sort of very interesting that even though I've joined on in season four, I'm still gonna be, going into my 30s and 40s, with them because there's, three more seasons to shoot. So maybe more.
Yeah, well, that's nice to hear. You don't want to find out that the guy that played Jesus is it's like, hey, I'm Jesus. I need a bigger trailer or whatever, you know. So tell us about Philip and what goes on with him in this season.
Okay, well, Philip, from what I've understood as being a fan and following Yoshi's wonderful work in season two and three, is a character who's basically an old soul. He's kind of hung around with John the Baptist, who is the person who proclaimed that Jesus is going to come, and he's out there in the wilderness hanging around with John as a father figure to him, eating locusts and honey. So he's kind of a little bit of a weirdo, a little bit of a kind of maverick, um, probably also kind of like I saw him as, what made him get away from his kind of comfortable home Jewish life, and he's probably seeking for something deeper. And he finds that through this kind of monk-like life with John the Baptist. And then somewhere along that journey, he's one of the only disciples who hears that or gets to witness this miracle of the baptism,
Mhm.
which means that he was kind of straight on, like almost counting days to get to Jesus. So that's kind of his journey to Jesus, and then his character is very sort of again a little bit esoteric, a little bit weird, a little bit monk-like, speaking these words of wisdom. But also, I think he's a very people person, and I kind of see him as the kind of heartbeat of the group because he leads with love and doesn't kind of come with ego or like some of the other characters. They're kind of used to the kind of materialistic life. Some of them are more like warrior types. I think he's very kind of grounded and kind of trying to just lead with love and kind of the connector, and making sure that everyone's, the pack is staying together and having a bit of fun along the way. Um, this season, his father figure dies, and that's a spoiler. Like almost everyone knows because I think it's kind of written,
Yeah.
but uh, so because of that. I think he goes quite internal. Like that's what I found from even reading the script. That I was going into it thinking, oh, there's going to be all these fun, like little esoteric, things to throw out. But he's much more quiet, and he's like he's struggling. There's times when there's conflicts, and usually he'd be the first to go out and like try and sort the problem. But he's more reserved and in himself, and I think there's something about he's in a transition season. I think he's trying to find out the kind of leader he wants to be for the group and the person he wants to be for the group. And also, I think that a lot of factors around father figures, his
Mhm.
own father, who he got away from, John the Baptist being dead, and now having to surrender in a way in total to Jesus is sort of a interesting journey for him to try and unravel.
Definitely. So I don't know if you would even know the answer to this question, but do you think that most of the people who work on the show are Christian or religious in general?
Um, Working on the show.
Yeah.
From what I know from working on the show, it's a very open-minded set. It's a very highly inclusive. I think this is also something Dallas Jenkins himself has mentioned various times that they're very inclusive. They're very open-minded to anyone from any uh, sort of faith or background coming into the picture because they kind of see the show as a historical drama. It's what
Mhm.
makes the show, I think, sell the way it does is that
Right.
it's it's there for you to relate to those scenes and the stories and the grapples of the disciples' human journey of trying to relate to something, sacred, that anyone can take a lesson from.
Mhm.
And because of that, I think that it is very inclusive. And like I think there's some quotes they make like love can disagree, which is deeply resonates with me at least. It's
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter as long as there's love.
Yeah.
You accept what's different, and it's not about the categories or
Mhm.
the faith categories or
A
say,
label. Yeah.
yeah, it's more about uh what you have to offer, and if you're there with your spirit to share that, really, I
I
feel.
think I think you answered my next question, which was that the show is very popular even with atheists and why you think that is, but that answered that question too. Because
Yeah, I would say
it
the
does.
same because I don't think it matters if you look at it sort of mythologically or like as a point of truth, or if you look at it as historical,
Mhm.
mythological. It all has something to offer for you, I think, personally.
Right, right.
I,
Yeah, I
I
always felt that with shows like what's that one? Now I can't, I just had it in my head. There was a sort of family show. Oh, Joan of Arcadia, where she sees Jesus or God or something. And I thought it's just a fun, if you believe in it, then you believe it. If you don't, it's a fun fantasy show. So it's the same with this. If you don't believe in it, then it's just a historical drama or fun show that takes place in another time and place.
some of those moments, like in season 3, there's a Matthew Mary scene. Like yeah, and also in this season, there's a scene that when it comes out, maybe I'll talk to you about it, but
Okay, yeah.
very
And
relevant.
they're going to show it in theaters, not just on TV, I read.
That's I went to see episode 1, 2, 3 yesterday. Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that it's out and almost every episode, I think every episode is going out throughout this month in February across stateside. I think they're doing the same
Oh,
across Europe and UK. I'm not sure, so please go and fact check those things.
did you
But
have a lot of, were there a lot of people in the theater when you went?
yeah, it was full.
Wow.
I was thinking I can go and say, hey, I was in the show. Can I go in? And they're like, no, you have to buy tickets. And yeah, they
Wow.
weren't.
Well, it's a big cast, I guess, unless you're
I
someone
sat
they
in the
know.
front and looked up, which is another one of the chosen books. As they say, I always say look up is a good thing to think about because
Yeah. So anything else you'd like to tell us or that you're allowed to tell us about the new season?
well, the main thing is that it's going to get darker. I think it's no question about that, and everyone pretty much knows about that. So, things get darker as the story gets darker. But the good thing about it is, what I love is I come from a sort of psychological and Jungian background. I love Carl Jung. I love the analysts. So one of the things I really love is this paradox of the opposites. That the more you go into the dark, the more you also um, start finding the depth and the meaning of the light. And that's quite interesting to see that sort of paradox playing out in season 4. Um, you know, knowing, and it's beautifully there that, you know, you might have a very dark moment, but Jesus himself and all the disciples find themselves in moments where they can, you know, light up that little candle. And as you know, the chosen keeps saying, you know, look up. So
Great, great. And it's still airing on the CW?
I believe so. Yeah, it's a
I'll
CW is
double,
airing it. You can find it in all sorts of areas.
right.
Yeah.
I'll double check that just. So how many did you say that they all were already doing a certain number of seasons that they've been picked up for?
I think what everyone seems to know is that it probably goes on to seven. If I say anything more because I'm new to this, I wonder if
Right.
people are going to get me in trouble. But I
No, don't
think,
worry, I'll look that up too, just to make
you
sure.
know, I know there's a lot of exciting things coming. So that's like a little wink, wink. But the point is, there's an insane fandom. It's what is it like 400? How is it? How many? 400 million? It's like a
Wow.
lot. It's a lot of people, and
I
I
know it's
think that
popular.
insane. And I don't know how this is happening, but it's really lovely. And I think, you know, credit to the,
And it
you know,
started, didn't it start before COVID? It was the first season before COVID
it,
and then,
it started out, yeah, it started out quite small. And
yeah.
so that's another thing that for me, even from a sort of, you know, business standpoint, it's a fascinating experience how it's grown so quickly and touched so many lives. It's, yeah.
Well, it's good. Okay, do you have any other projects that you filmed in the meantime or that are coming out or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a couple of projects coming out. Well, actually, funny enough, at the moment, there's a couple of things out there. I mean, I had a little small bit in The Beekeeper. I have the Persian version, which has just made its UK premiere yesterday at the Picture House, which I
That's a
couldn't
great title.
really in the States waiting for my next job. But basically, yeah, Persian version is a really cool film to see. Going forward in the next months, there's The Astronaut, which is this film where I play this NASA guy, this director of NASA. You know, it's interesting, different. And then there's Reading Lolita in Tehran, which is very close to my heart. That's a book that's been adapted to a film. And I got to work with my hero, Golshifteh Farahani, and that was quite a exciting journey. It's a very interesting character as well. Sort of people who've read the book, you go read the book and you know, tell me what you think. But it's a very fun, complex experience about the early days of the Iranian Revolution and the kind
Oh,
of cancel culture that ensued, let's say.
okay, great. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, and I will wait and see what happens with the other seasons. I actually haven't watched it yet. I watched parts of season one, so and it was really good. So I'll keep watching.
Oh,
Catch
thanks. Yeah,
up.
it's only get started. Season two, there's a lot more characters coming in. It's gonna get really fun. So
Good, good, good. All right. Well, thank you very much.
thanks for having me. Take care.